Hello everyone, how are you doing? I'm doing great because in this video I'm going to be discussing Hector of Castlevania, part 2 in my Forgemasters of Castlevania series, part 1 of which focused on Isaac if you're interested. The contrast between these two is quite interesting and I enjoy the trajectory of their character arcs both separately and together. We're first introduced to them at the same time as important advisors to Dracula and a key part of his plan to kill all of humanity. Because, let's face it, without these monster makers, it would take a lot longer to kill us all. And why would Hector want to be part of a plan to eliminate his entire race? The truth is that he doesn't. Dracula straight up lied to him. Let him believe whatever he wanted in order to get the night creatures he needed for his extermination.
And that is how it shall be.
Because, despite never being treated with kindness or love by any human, Hector is not overcome by the need for vengeance and retaliation.
My fellow humans have never treated me with love, and I punish them for it. But I wouldn't have them suffer. And like any animal, I think the world would be poorer with their extinction.
He hasn't been overrun by hatred, unlike Isaac and Dracula, and still awards humankind the minimum amount of respect and mercy, as he does with all living creatures. Hector is an inherently kind, merciful, and empathetic person, which, coupled with his long isolation from non-animals, has led him to being rather gullible and easily tricked. His story is one of a series of manipulations that lead him into increasingly shitty situations. But despite all the bad things that happen to him, all the deceptions, his spirit remains unbroken. In flashbacks, we're introduced to little boy Hector, a sweet child broken-hearted over the death of a dog. Tears fill his grey eyes and he drops to his knees, his intense desire to save the dog and bring it back to life, sparking the magic inside of him, and thus the Forgemaster is born. He is overjoyed at his success, but his parents, and I assume other humans, are horrified by what he has done. He is punished and scorned and used, and no one understands why he did what he did. That the source of his actions is nothing but empathy and a desire to save. He burns his family home to the ground and spends most of his life alone with his zombie animals, which is part of the reason why he is so easily manipulated. He is simply unused to the machinations of people, and vampires by extension. Dracula even describes him as a child in a man's body. Speaking of Dracula, as his war swings into action, Hector begins to realize, with a little push from Camilla, that the master vampire isn't planning on culling humans to a more manageable number and herding them into pens like livestock, but killing them all. And Hector's soft heart doesn't want a mass extinction, even for humans, who have brought him nothing but grief. Unfortunately for our Forgemaster, the vampires bring him a pretty hefty amount of grief too. First, Dracula manipulated him into making night creatures for him, and then Camilla strolls into his necromancy office and sinks her claws into him. Notice how she plays with his undead puppy and tells him exactly what he wants to hear. She successfully gets him to betray Dracula and Isaac by extension, and imprisons him when her plan is foiled. The vampire tortures him unnecessarily, even going so far as to take his shoes as they make the long trek back to Styria, where she rules with her sisters, including the next in line to the manipulate Hector pipeline, Lenore. Oh, Lenore, Lenore, Lenore. Do I like her? No, I do not. I actually quite like Camilla. As an antagonist, she's incredibly entertaining and a joy to hate. And I think if I was a vampire, I might go mad and try to take over the world. What else should one do with immortality? But anyway, back to Lenore. She's the diplomat among the group and successfully uses her skillful tongue and a handful of kind actions to slip into Hector's rather open heart. Our man is lonely and yearns for the companionship that he has never had. So Lenore's tactics work on him, and in a moment of intense passion, gets him to devote himself to her, binding him and his night creatures to her and her sisters. Oh, Hector, my guy, you can't trust these vampires! At the end of season 3, he's pretty horrified at what has happened to him. But in season 4, he appears to have made peace with his situation, with him and Lenore coming across as genuine friends. And I think they are. As much as a slave and master can be, anyway. But this is the season of Hector's redemption, and this time he's the one doing the manipulating. Lenore thinks he's all content and accepting of his situation, and in the meantime, he's conspired to bring Dracula back from the dead and created a magical corridor path portal thing through the castle. He even has a vampire trap all ready to go and gives Lenore a taste of her own medicine. At the end of the series, Isaac has seized victory and killed Camilla, and he and Hector have become allies, as they were always meant to be. We see how true and forgiving our soft Forgemaster's heart is by his desire to remain with Lenore. He cut off his finger for freedom, but doesn't want to let go of the relationship they created. Because, as I said before, he craves closeness and companionship, which he has never truly had.
I want to be left alone. With Lenore. I want to read and make things and think.
In fact, there's a moment right in the beginning of season 2 where Hector seeks that camaraderie with Isaac and is rejected. But at the end, Isaac makes the offer of friendship to him, and at last Hector will have himself a companion that he didn't have to bring back from the dead, or that didn't manipulate him into the relationship in the first place. Lenore steps into the sun in the end, and I was glad for it. I hope Hector finds himself a nice witch and they have a handful of magic babies. I think Uncle Isaac would really enjoy that. And that's it for today's video. Sorry it took a bit longer than intended. Life keeps giving me lemons, but I hope you enjoyed this lemonade. Like or comment if you enjoyed this video. Next week, I want to do a comparison of Dracula from Castlevania and Dracula / Alucard from Helsing. Let me know what you think about that. For now, I've been Kayla and see you next time. Bye.